The key recommendation here is, don't put all your eggs into one basket. It's very important that you diversify and de-risk your supply chain across pretty much every section, across from the manufacturers to sales channels and then to the fulfillment centers. So multi-warehouse fulfillment is one of the key strategies to actually do that. And we see that across the e-commerce community that has been fairly successful. If you only operate out of one node, you're very much exposed to potential disruptions. And you might have seen that maybe during your past peaks, Black Friday, Cyber Mondays, that could be a challenge. Now with COVID, that actually has become a lot more challenging if you're only operating out of one warehouse. So key thing is that you actually go to multiple fulfillment nodes. And we have a lot of customers here with Ingram Micro that are in multiple warehouses. So if one of our locations, or if your own location that you run yourself is affected by a COVID case, is that you then have other options to fall back on. The key components here is the physical infrastructure, transportation, and then the technology. All of these three things have to work really, really well together. So on the physical infrastructure, nimble warehouses, multiple locations, streamlined internal operations and communications across one facility or within multiple facilities. Try to have pickups times as late as possible. So if you have your pickups times early in the day, that kind of significantly degrades your customer experience. So the later you do that, the better. And that you kind of work really well together with your carriers. Ideally, you are pretty much having daily interactions with your carriers to make sure that you can coordinate transportation operations and everything that goes along with it. And that is kind of like a key part of it. On the transportation side, I think I already mentioned that it's best to be a little bit more carrier agnostic. Obviously, it's good to have strong relationships with these guys. So the more volume you have, the better you can have, the better relationships you can have with your transportation partners. But key thing is that you don't only rely on one, and that you can fairly easily pivot between the carrier. So if one of them has challenges, or one of them might only have challenges in one specific region, that you avoid that region with that one carrier and then can actually switch over to other carriers. So the flexibility on the transportation side is absolutely essential. The technology piece, that's kind of the glue that puts everything together. And that is kind of becoming super important during this pandemic. And I think you guys have seen all the big shifts towards digital transformation. I think this technology piece is absolutely essential. So we're in a very lucky situation, or good situation, that we've had the Shipwire platform since many years now, and we've invested a lot of time and effort into that. We've moved it to Google Cloud in the last year, and I'm so glad we did that, because the loads are significantly higher now on the platforms than ever before. But what it allows us to do is that we can actually dynamically route orders between locations. And even when orders already dropped into one warehouse, if we then see that this warehouse actually has an outage, we're able to actually pull these orders back out and move them to a different facility. Ryan, over to you.
Thank you very much, Marcelo, and hello, everyone. So I know most people are familiar with Amazon's Fulfillment by Amazon. We call it FBA, as where everyone else does, so I'll abbreviate it during this presentation. FBA is a great marketplace. It helps sellers actually attach their brand to clients that they may or may not already have at a relationship with. And FBA helps them support kind of the overall selling of that SKU. We help a lot of our clients actually replenish inventory into FBA warehouses. So we're actually fulfilling a good portion of the FBA engine on behalf of our clients today. And as good as FBA is, I think many of them were caught off guard by some of the activities that occurred this year, again, specifically around COVID. And many were scrambling to recover. So items like Amazon really was delaying inventory replenishment into the warehouses. They were either elongating lead times or making it a non-priority to go ahead and get non-essential product in. Lastly is that if you did have inventory in an Amazon warehouse, Amazon was shifting their focus to go ahead and cater more towards non-essential goods, putting those up to the side and catering to essential products. So unless your products were actually essential, you were actually trapped. So it left many sellers actually with inventory in what I call a captive supply chain. So again, what we've looked at is different strategies. And what I'll share with you on the next slides is that we've been able to kind of work with inside of the confines of Amazon overall and consulting with our clients to unstick the supply chain. One of the questions is how do you kind of leverage these two other additional services that Amazon has? So one is fulfillment by merchant. The second is seller fulfilled prime. So both of these are both marketplace programs, and they are actually in conjunction with the overall FBA program. So what these two last programs actually are is they are 3PL based programs. They're models that we actually help our clients stock and service out to their customers. That inventory can actually be leveraged for the FBM and SFP program specifically. So when we look at the Fulfillment by Amazon or SFP, we're able to go ahead and dynamically shift the inventory. It's in one of our warehouses, or as Marcella mentioned, it may be spread across multiple warehouses, which is a benefit during these times. And what it's really allowing it to do is to allow you to go ahead and continue your business along in an FBA world. But in conjunction, what we've done is we've helped clients actually set up these FBM or SFP programs right off to the side. So both are working in concurrent fashion with Amazon. So as an example, what we're doing is we're actually allowing orders to come in through Amazon as it normally does. And we help our clients actually determine how to actually set up the selling templates, how to actually set up the inventory, and do it in a way where it's actually a pool of inventory that when the FBA inventory, either one, is not available, so it's actually depleted or out of stock, business and revenue can actually keep flowing because we can divert those orders into the FBM SKU. So this is directly in theme with what we've been looking at is we're looking at multiple ways that instead of just having one way of doing things, is that we're actually presenting and working with clients to go and have multiple avenues that are available to go and demand inventory out. Now, relevant to this is not only pertinent to Amazon, but that same pool of inventory, as I mentioned, that's in one of our warehouses can actually be dynamically fulfilled to other marketplaces, even diverted over to your own .com. So again, in theme is you don't have that context of captive inventory that would stymie your revenue stream. You're able to go ahead and pick up the paces and go ahead and actually have revenue flowing through these other channels. Seller Central sellers. So again, it's the cumulative of FBA, FBM, or SFP. They're not only Amazon programs that benefit from a dynamic supply chain. We work with many clients who also have a first-party relationship with Amazon, also known as Vendor Central. So the unfortunate thing is, again, during these times is that many of those clients also experienced some disruption or delay in working with Amazon. Replenishment POs were delayed or non-existent for periods of time. If POs were presented, there was long receiving delays getting into an Amazon warehouse. So the unfortunate thing is that same thing is, despite this being on the other side of Amazon's house, there was actually still disruption to go ahead and claim this revenue chain with Amazon. So same thing is we've creatively thought of ideas that we can go and bring to table. And next slide, I'll share with you one of the examples. So recently, we've had a few clients who have had, I'll call it a use case, but realistically, what they were looking at is that they did have a first-party relationship with Amazon. And particularly, one of the clients actually has a product launch that is pending. So knowing that the product launch was coming up quickly, they reached out and was working intently with their Amazon representatives. And the Amazon representatives were basically acknowledging that there were strong delays in getting inventory in through the Amazon warehouse network. So based on the timing for all of those activities, there was a quick realization that they would not be able to have inventory available that would be in the Amazon warehouse and ready to fulfill on the day of the launch. So what we've done is we've worked with a few different streams just to kind of interrogate how Amazon works. And one of the things that is there is a service called direct fulfillment. So direct fulfillment ultimately is a drop ship program that is directly attached to the vendor central side. So it's a first party sale from Amazon, but being fulfilled from a third party warehouse. So with the rigors of that type of a program, there is normally EDI connectivity that's in play. That's one thing, again, and because we had such short time windows that we were thinking of for this one use case, we didn't have the luxury of trying to detach and reattach into any of our core systems. We basically were working, saying, we're going to leave that in place. It's a long lead time item. How do we work around it? So again, creatively, we're looking at ways to unstick these issues as we came up with it. So what we determined was we were going to work with the process to manually extract orders out of direct fulfillment. What we would do from there is we would leverage the platform capabilities that Marcelo talked about that allowed us to go ahead and get those orders into our order management system, which can then be rated inside of our system appropriately to Amazon's carrier. And then lastly is those orders can electronically, through our process, streamline down to the fulfillment warehouse and be Amazon compliant. Shipping label, all of the requisite information is there, including the tracking information. And therefore, all the fulfillment activities could actually pick up pace within a matter of a week to 2 weeks. The last thing that we were aware of, again, part of the EDI, is that there's a requirement for the vendor to close out those orders with Amazon via the ADI 810 or the electronic invoice. So same thing as we didn't want to mess with that. We've worked with processes to allow the vendor now actually receive our ship information with all the requisite tracking information. And then that shuttles back into their ERP system, which effectively helps close out the order. And then that way, revenue streams actually stay intact and everyone's able to go ahead and get the product delivered to customers on time. Okay, so the last thing I want to share with you today is no matter how dynamic your supply chain setup is, what we've definitely recognized as a best practice is we need to have proper systems and definitely visibility tools in play. And this really holds true with the Amazon marketplace. Amazon itself imposes some very strict SLAs, all the way from order acknowledgement to order fulfillment times to delivery times. We need to make sure that we, as an extension of our clients, are operating and performing properly. So what we've done is we've set up over the years actually a set of tools and systems that help us track and trace all of the business. So as Marcelo mentioned, right now we're actually seeing higher than normal volumes this time of year. These are really equivalent to peak volumes. So what we've had to do is make sure that we're relying on our systems, our best practices and processes. And so by having these types of systems in place, we've been able to help make sure that we're not creating additional problems. But we've also been able to go and help our clients remediate any issues as they come up and really unstick the complete supply chain. This makes sure that the deliveries to the end customer actually happen on time and within SLA. So overall, this is how we get ship done.